Old Joe's Pirate Adventure, Book 1, The Dolphins, written by Joseph S. Hinshaw, illustrations by David Stewart Codling, narrated by Jessica Meyer. Video copyright Mousegate Press, 2019. On a bright, sunny day on Florida's Gulf Coast, old Joe took his grandsons Bradley and Barrett to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. They all loved the stories of the pirates that sailed in the waters of the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico in those days past. The pirate life was always exciting with lots of adventures. They hoped to sample this at Disney. Once inside the Disney park, they made their way to the Pirates League attraction and got into line. Once inside, they would dress in their pirate clothes that were provided as a part of the experience. They would be given a pirate name, taught the ways of the pirate, and then set sail for a pirate adventure. Old Joe and his boys would find out their own adventure to be more magical than what was planned by the Disney park as the day progressed. They did not know this yet, though. Old Joe and the boys got into their pirate clothes. When they were dressed, they were instructed to go to the dock to board the pirate ship when they were in their proper costumes. They were in awe of the ship, but as they approached the gangplank and the air started twirling like a whirlwind, they were lifted way, way up into the sky. The whirlwind moved away from the dock and away from Disney World itself. They did not know where or how hard they would land. They flew through the air at great speed and high in the sky for some time. They could see the ground below. They watched as their ship in Disney World grew smaller and smaller into the distance until they could no longer see it. They were flying over the water. The view was breathtaking, but the fear of falling or being slammed to the ground was a constant worry. After a while the speed of the whirlwind slowed, and they felt themselves being slowly lowered closer to the ground, and it eventually gently set them down on a white sandy beach. They looked all around them to determine where they were, but could not find anything familiar to help them with their location. During their search for landmarks, they spied an entrance to a cave hidden behind some bushes and rocks along the beach. They decided to walk to the cave and see if it offered any clues. As they approached, they found only a very dark tunnel. Fearfully, they entered and moved forward. They had to feel their way along by running their hands along the walls and watching every step in the darkness. They continued on until they found a large cave room. It was bathed in light, and when their eyes focused from the darkness, they looked in and found a waterfall with a rainbow hovering over its top. The rainbow came to the ground on both sides of the waterfall. They had all heard the folklore that said there was a pot of gold at the end of each rainbow protected by a leprechaun, so they hurried to the spot. Where the colors of the rainbow touched the ground, the stones on the floor of the cave had turned colors that touched them from the glow of the rainbow. The boys had long collected unusual stones. They had never seen any like these. They started to pick up the stones and put them in their packs. It was then that they heard an angry voice come from behind the waterfall. The voice said, "What are you doing with me rainbow rocks?" Bradley answered and said, "We have a rock collection and we would like to add these to our other rocks." A small man dressed all in green stepped out of the rocks. He said, "Well, these rocks are me own. They are me magic rocks." He seemed to be getting more and more upset. He started to dance and went faster and faster until he could hardly be seen. Then he stopped. He said, "The magic in these rocks is not meant for boys. For instance, this light blue rock I have here can take a mean person and turn them into nice if you touch them with it. Some can be dangerous in the wrong hands." Bradley said, "Oh, I understand, but we will be careful, and you are standing right here with us. May I see the rock?" The little man said, "If ye are real careful, you can." Bradley was smart. He took the rock and touched it to him. The man in green jumped high in the air and screamed, "You have tricked me. I am a leprechaun. I am to guard the gold of the fairy queen. How can I do this if I am nice?" Bradley said, "It's better to be nice." The leprechaun said, "Maybe it is at that. Because you have tricked me, you are wise. You may take all of me magic rocks that you like with the promise that you will not misuse them. Here is a list of rocks by color and what magic is in each of them. I take it you will be going on into the cave. Be careful there. She be a mean one." With that he disappeared. Old Joe and the boys did not know who she was, but would soon find out. They found a tunnel behind the waterfall that led deeper into the cave. This tunnel was very dark. Old Joe looked at the list of rocks and found that yellow rocks would give them light. The boys dug into their packs and found their yellow rocks. They held them up, but they had no light in them. They waved the rocks around, but no light came. Bradley became frustrated, and he threw his away, but as it struck the cave walls, the stones in the cave began to glow, and the light from the rocks in the cave walls spread all around the tunnel and throughout the cave. They walked until they came to another large cave room. This one was much larger than the first. As they entered it, they were surprised. The cave room was lit from the magic rocks. On the dry rocks of the cave floor sat an old pirate ship. The water used to keep it afloat had dried long ago. On the deck of the ship was a red-haired girl. She was in a pink pirate outfit and was having a tea party with her dolls on the deck. Old Joe yelled, "Ahoy there! Permission to come aboard?" The girl said, "No, it is my ship and I do not share." With that she threw a black rock at them to run off. The boys ducked, and it sailed over their heads and struck the cave walls. A large hole opened into the cave wall, and sea water rushed in from the opening that the black rock had left behind. The cave room was quickly filling with water. The girl said, "Uh-oh, this can't be good." The captain looked at his list of magical rocks. The black rock would create holes in anything that it struck. He saw that the pink rocks would make whoever it struck act like a proper girl. He told the boys to find their pink rocks. Bradley found his first and let it fly at the snotty red-headed girl. It bounced on the deck and rolled to a stop against her boot. She stuck out her tongue and said, miss me, now you have to kiss me." Fortunately, even though the rock just rolled into her boot, it was enough for the magic to work. She looked around confused at first, and then screamed, "Oh, my cobwebs and bones and bugs! I have to get out of here." She packed up her tea set and dolls and ran from the ship, saying, "I don't want this dirty, disgusting, bug-ridden ship any more. You can have it." Then she ran off yelling, "Ick!" There was little time to act. Old Joe told the boys to run and get on board the ship. The cave was filling with water quickly. They ran up the gangplank and lifted it onto the ship. They untied the ship from the dock to cast off, and soon they were afloat. As soon as the ship began to float where there was new magic at work, the pirate bones that lay in disarray around the ship came to life. They gathered themselves together and became men again. They looked at old Joe. They did not know him, For a minute there was a standoff, but the bonemen seemed to decide that old Joe and the boys were in charge, and set to work sailing the ship. The ship was moving now, but there was a problem. Barrett said, "The ship is going to hit the wall of the cave. The hole isn't big enough." Indeed, the ship was floating towards the cave wall and being pulled towards it by the swirling water. They would surely hit the wall and sink. Old Joe told the boys to find their black rocks and to throw them at the wall. The newly formed pirates joined in. With little time to spare, the rocks found their marks and made holes in the wall just the right size for the ship to fit through. It sailed through the hole and out into the sea beyond the wall. Now that they were in the open sea, they began to explore the ship. The galley was stocked with all kinds of food. There was spaghetti and pizza and mac and cheese. There were burgers and fries. There were tacos and chicken nuggets. There were fruits and veggies. There were hot dogs and cheese and soda and milk. There was candy and cakes. It was hard to know how the ship got its supplies, or how it was known what things that the boys and Grandpa liked to eat, but it was there. While they were looking through the supplies, a voice rang out, loud and clear. It said, "Old Joe, my name is Max. I am the ship's computer, and I will do all of the work for you. You only need to ask." "The ship named Terra. It means earth or ground. My orders are to take you on our first voyage. We will go in search of treasure on a deserted island in the Caribbean." Old Joe said, "Set sail then, mate. We are ready for adventure on the high sea." He wondered who it was that had sent Max and delivered them to this fine ship, but that would wait for a later time. As they sailed, the boys were looking for something to do. Old Joe made bubble blowing guns for them, and they were blowing bubbles over the ship's rails and into the sea. There were hundreds of bubbles of all sizes and shapes, shimmering in the sunlight and popping. The sea suddenly came to life. From beneath the waves there were dark shapes moving quickly. They broke the surface and went high into the air and popped the floating bubbles. They were dolphins, and dolphins loved to play. The boys were laughing and enjoying themselves. They made the bubbles at a frantic pace so the dolphins would play with them. They noticed that there were smaller dolphins in the water, and threw a colorful beach ball over the railing to them. They would smack the ball into the air with their noses and keep it afloat. Occasionally they would bat it back to the boys so they could join in and play with them. "Max," the ship's computer said, "would you like to speak to the dolphins? I can translate most animal languages." Old Joe and the boys looked at each other in amazement. Old Joe said yes, and they could now talk with dolphins, and they could speak back to them. They heard the dolphins laughing and saying hi to them. They returned their greetings. The play continued at a frantic pace. Suddenly the dolphins disappeared. They could hear crying below from the mother of a baby dolphin. She told them that her baby had journeyed far out to the edge of the pond. He had gone too far, and had been caught in the fishing nets with other fish. He would be taken away, and they would never see him again. They were all very sad. Bradley and Barry shouted together with the mother, "We will help! We will get your baby back!" They looked at old Joe the pirate. Max said, "The ship has many magical powers. We can be invisible. We can move very fast, and we have a laser." Old Joe the pirate shouted, "Steer our course for that fishing vessel, and make us invisible." The ship picked up speed. Barrett told the dolphins to stand back from the ship so they would be safe. Off they went after the baby dolphin. The ship was very fast. It caught up to the fishing boat in a very short time. The ship had a net full of fish hanging off of each side from large hooks. The boys spotted the baby dolphin in the net. Old Joe the pirate said, "Max, do you have a plan?" Max said, "Watch this." The ship slowed. The fishing boat could not see it while it was invisible. Suddenly a yellow beam flashed across the waters, aimed right at the boat. It made contact with the net where it was hooked to the boat. The laser cleanly cut through the net, and it dropped into the water, freeing all of the fish and the baby dolphin. The boys asked Max to tell the baby dolphin to follow the ship, and they would lead him back to his mother. He happily jumped from the water and waved his flipper at them to say thanks. He swam beside the boat, jumping and frolicking in the water until he saw his mother. His mother rushed to his side and hugged him closely. The dolphins gathered around the ship. The leader of the pod spoke up. He said, "Old Joe the pirate, you have proven that you are our friends. We will pass the word to the others in the seas, and they will be your friends too. Wherever you go and whatever you do, they will help you." Bradley said, "You're our friends too. We will help you anytime and anywhere that we can." The ship dropped anchor and spent a few days at that place in the ocean. They also named the cave where they found the ship. This cave would now be their base of operation. They named Dolphin Cave after their new friends. The boys and the crew played until they were all worn out and needed some rest. Old Joe the pirate looked over the map he had found in the captain's quarters with Max's help. It would lead them to the treasure chest on their next adventure. They would raise their anchor again soon. Then they will go to that Caribbean island where the map says they will find their first treasure. The end. Joseph Hinshaw grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. He has been involved with children and their causes all of his life, including scouting, sports, and organizations. He has also been a teacher, kindergarten through 12th grade, and special needs. Writing has been a part of his life and knows that words and stories can have powerful outcomes. Through his books, he hopes to inspire this younger generation to record their own thoughts, history, and ideas to share throughout time. David Stewart Codling lives in East Keswick, England. He is a trained artist and graduate of the Royal Academy of Art. He is also an accomplished guitarist with album and movie credits to his name. He took on this illustration project after reviewing the writing and felt that he could offer some very wonderful illustrations to these books. Joe and David collaborated on visions that turned into the illustrations. Each panel in the book was put to the easel in watercolor and is professional quality. David shows his art in several galleries in England and Europe.